this morning. I'm drinking tea, not beer. Yeah, believe it or not, I don't just drink beer. Tea and honey. Ceylon Orange Pico. It's my favourite tea now. It's amazing. That's hot. Orange Pico doesn't have that astringency that a lot of other black teas have. It's really good if you want to make. It's perfect for iced tea, which I do make and drink, especially when I go to the range and that. I'll take 1.5 litres of iced tea rather than just water. But today's subject is well, I've had it for 3 years now. The Baumr AG SX82, which is supposed to be a 72 cc saw. I still haven't measured the displacement. I really don't care about what the actual displacement is, just as long as the thing runs and cuts well, and it has. I have to say, I have to give props where credit where credit is due, and my Baumr AG SX82 has run flawlessly, I have to say, and heaps of power. I've got it came with a 24-inch bar, and so it's a 24-inch bar on it, and that's what it came with. And this is, I think, the chain that it came with. Yeah, it is. Nothing wrong with the bar, nothing wrong with the chain. So the things that I did originally upgrade on it was that I had a full wrap handle on it, so I've taken that off subsequently. I did have the proper Husqvarna dogs in it, the big ones. I've taken them off and put the original back on, single dog. It does still have the, I don't know whether it's an OEM Husky oil cap or not, but I did replace the oil cap because the original one was leaking. That one does not. I don't know if that's an OEM. I don't think it's an OEM. I think it could be. I don't know. What else did I replace on it? That's about it, really. Oh yeah, I had the I think, what's his name? There's a guy in Canada who makes custom modified mufflers. I think he's Big Daddy 2346567 or something or other. Mosquito. Big Daddy, or what's Performance Saw Parts or something or other he's called. He's on eBay. Just go Big Daddy 234567, I think it is his store. So I had one of his dual port mufflers with the spark screens on the outside. I've got that on my Pharmatech now, because I bought a Pharmatech G362 XP. So the Baumr AG SX82 is a copy of the Husqvarna 372 XP. Now, it's like I said, I don't know what the actual displacement is. The 372 XPs are supposed to be 71 cc's or 70.6 or something like that. I don't know what the displacement of this thing is, and it doesn't concern me. It never has, and it doesn't. I don't really care. Just as long as the thing, could cut. And like I said, so I've had this for 3 years now. I just wanted to do a report, a final report on the Baumr AG SX82. I've never had a problem with it. I've never had a problem with really the change. I did have a orange clutch cover on it because on the Husky the chain tensioner is in the clutch cover. I did change that because the chain tensioner on this was supposed to be, and it was a bit crappy. It is a bit crappy. It still works. There's nothing seriously wrong with it, but I preferred a smoother one, and the replacement that I got whoever the seller was, it had Husqvarna OEM part. I'm pretty sure it was advertised as a Husqvarna OEM part. It wasn't. It was another aftermarket, I'm assuming Chinese part, but it was better. It definitely was better than that. This one is still okay. So the reason why I've put all the original bits back on it, the handle, the dog, the clutch cover and muffler, the reason I put everything back on it, and the bar and the chain, I had a longer bar and chain, I had a 28-inch bar on it. The reason why I put everything back on it is because I'm selling it, and you might ask, well, if there's nothing wrong with it, why are you selling it? Because I only need so many 70cc chainsaws. Because this is the first decent, what I call a decent sized chainsaw that I purchased. Prior to this, all I had was a Shindaiwa 352S Professional, and which is quite a small saw. And when you're cutting bigger stuff, you're really trying to cut, steak with a butter knife, and it'll work, but you're gonna have to put a lot of effort in and put the saw under a lot of stress and strain that you shouldn't be, when you should just be using a bigger saw. So that's why I originally got it. I had been online before I purchased it, had a look at a few, choices, and this was one of the cheaper ones that you could buy. I had a look just before, and they're selling for about 270 Australian, and you can usually get free delivery with that. 270, 280, something like that. Well, I saw someone advertising for 300 there, so you can shop around and get a cheaper one. Now, one of the things that I've seen, there's been rumour floating around from people who've bought later model ones, is that things have deteriorated as far as quality. Because originally when they first sort of came out, people bought them, and then one guy in particular, Gabman's Workshop, he's an Aussie guy, have a look at his channel. He's a really fun guy to watch. He had issues, and one of his buddy had issues, and they were reporting these things to the company that imports. I'm assuming that they're the importer, and they sell all Baumr AG stuff. Is Edison's, a company called Edison's here in Australia, not Australia. And so Edison's was taking their feedback on board and relaying that to the manufacturer to make changes and improvements and that. And apparently those improvements were made, and things got better. But recently reports have been that they've gone in the opposite direction and gone cheaper and on things, because Gabman, his one, the wrist pin bearing failed, and blew the saw up, so he had to change the top end, the cylinder and piston, and obviously the wrist pin for a better one. He used a Highway big bore kit, 52 millimeter big bore kit, to replace his top end. I've actually got one of those, so I was actually going to put the 52 millimeter Highway big bore kit in this, but I'm not going to bother because I'm selling it. Again, the reason I'm selling it is because after having this for a while, I went and bought, I originally bought a G660, but I did buy a Pharmatech, so I seem like a bit of a spokesman for Pharmatech. I'm not, they gave me a free hat, so I'll wear it when I talk about them. So I bought the Pharmatech G372 XP, which, in my opinion, Pharmatech, Holtzformer Pharmatech are sort of like a cut above the rest. I'm also told that Neotech make a really good product, that Neotech and Pharmatech are sort of, even in quality wise. I don't know that. I've never owned a Neotech. I can tell you right now that my G372 Pharmatech, is definitely a good saw. It's a really good saw. I really like it. All the bits that I had that I'd upgraded on this, I've put on that. But as far as this saw, after 3 years, I can't complain. It really has done the business, cutting bigger stuff. You know, something that a 35cc chainsaw can't handle, or you shouldn't be cutting with. So, all in all, it's been a great saw. It's really served me well. The bar is loose because when you store a chainsaw, take the bar and chain off. These days I just take the bar and chain off. Or if I'm not going to take the bar and chain off, I will have the bar loose and push back. And the reason for that is, and I wasn't aware, I mean, it's totally, completely obvious, but it's one of those things that if it's not pointed out to you, you know, once someone points it out to you, you go, oh shit, that's obvious. Why, you know, why didn't I realise that earlier? But you don't. And that is that if you put your bar and chain on, tension it to where it should be, and just leave it like that, and leave it sitting around, what it's doing is putting pressure on the bearing that way, which is not a big deal because bearings are pretty tough, but the seal, the crank seal, it's putting pressure on the crank seal, and the crank seal is plastic, rubber, whatever it is, whatever the compound is, some sort of plastic compound. It's putting pressure on it that way, and it will leave, you may have, after, especially if they're cheap seals, if it's cheap plastic, it may not stay around, and the hole where the shaft goes through, it may elongate, and then you will have a leak, and which is not good. So if you are going to put your saw, when you do put your saw away, take the bar and chain off. It's just that simple. Or loosen the bar off and push it back so that it's not, so that there's no real even though the actual play that the shaft can have is very, very little, but still, it's, you know, there's got to be some play, right? You can't have a press fit with something that's spinning around. So there's a tip, which I didn't even realise until someone actually pointed that out. I can't remember who it was that pointed it out. But if you want to learn about these things, Gadman's Workshop. He hasn't posted anything for almost a year. I'm not sure what the deal is there. I think he was unwell for a bit there. So hope you're doing well, Gadman. Shout out. He sort of put me onto cheap Chinese chainsaws. So if you're looking, I mean, if you only want to spend a little bit of money, yeah, all right, buy one of these. But, and I'm not putting Baumr AG down at all. It is what it is. Right? It's a $270 chainsaw. Don't expect it to be a $2,000 chainsaw, which is what it's copied off. If you want to buy a really capable chainsaw and rest easy in the knowledge that it's going to serve you well and last for a period of time, and you're not going to have issues with it, just buy the Farmatech. It's a little bit more. It's more expensive, but in my opinion, they're really putting out some pretty good stuff. Clearly not as good as or the same as the OEM Husqvarna, but it's still pretty good stuff. Again, why am I selling this? Because I've got the G372, the Farmatech, which is 70cc, same as this, or this is supposedly 70cc, and I'm one of those people who likes to have a backup. All right, you got to have a backup. I was in the military, and we had a backup, and then we had a backup for the backup. So I don't believe in having 3 70cc chainsaws, because I'm in the process of buying a Husqvarna 572 XP, which is the latest and greatest. It's got it's still got a carburetor. It's not like the Stihl I series, which are fuel injected and have M-tronic self-tuning. The Husqvarna 572 has, I can't remember what they call it, but it's a self-tuning saw, so there's no adjustments. There's no adjustment screws on the carby whatsoever. It's got a brain, so a chip, and it analyzes atmospheric pressure, so the elevation that you're at, the air density, which is probably atmospheric pressure as well, temperature, fuel, your fuel that you're using, depending on the ratio of oil to petrol or gasoline. I can't remember what else it analyses, but it goes through an analysis process. You fire it up, and you let it idle, and then you give it some juice, and it does the analysis, and it tunes the carburetor to suit the conditions. So I've got that on the way. So I'm going to have a G372, the Pharmatech, and I'm going to have the Husqvarna 572. So I've finally done it. I'm buying a Husqvarna OEM saw, and the latest one. I could have bought just a 372, but I thought, bugger it, I'll get the 572, because as far as new saws, you can still get new 372s, but I don't think there's a whole lot of difference in price. And Husqvarna right now, I don't know if it's all around Australia or what, but Australia, I don't know if they've got a discount going, so it's, instead of $2,100, it's like $1,800, so a $300 discount. So hey, take advantage of that and get yourself a Husqvarna. I could have gotten a Stihl. The only issue that I have with Stihls is that, like, they're typically 30% dearer for the same size saw as a Husqvarna. Are they 30% better than a Husqvarna? Yeah. The 462, which is the Stihl MS462, which is their latest 70cc or 72cc, it's a little bit bigger, 72cc saws. Apparently they've got more power, which makes sense because they're bigger displacement. And, like, I can't remember who it was that said there's no replacement for displacement. You can soup up, a small engine as much as you want, but at the end of the day, a bigger engine is going to do a better job and last longer. And that's just a fact. So the MS62 Stihl is like 30% dearer. It's about $3,000 as compared to a Husqvarna 572, which is about $2,000 normally. It's $1,800 now. So the Stihls, yeah, they probably are technically better, but a hell of a lot more expensive. And the one I've seen a couple of comparisons between the 462 and the 572, and the reports pretty much across the board are that the 572 is a lot smoother. It's heavier, so the 572 is heavier than the 462, the Stihl 462. The Husqvarna 572 is heavier than the 462, but the 572 is smoother, so you have less hand vibration. And being in a job where I work with very large hands-on tools, like big pneumatic wrenches that weigh, like 50 kilos, yeah, they're big monsters that we hang off a winch, an air winch, because they're so heavy. The vibration on those things, after a while, it really does affect you. And being old and having old hands, the less vibration input, the better. So anyway, all that aside, if you want to buy my Baumr AG has never had a problem. I've always been really happy with it. It's done the job. It's done everything that I wanted it to do. The handle is a bit thin. That's one gripe. The handle is quite thin, and I've got big hands, so that's a bit of a pain. But you can just wrap more, whatever you want, foam or whatever around it, and tape it up with grip tape or whatever. but in my opinion, if you want a Chinese saw that's a lot cheaper than the OEM product, just buy the Pharmatech. You won't be disappointed. I think a new Pharmatech G372 is about $430 Australian, which is less than quarter of the price, or quarter of the price of the OEM. If you want the real thing and can afford the real thing, get yourself the Husky 372, the older model, if you can still get it, or a second-hand one, which I've seen them listed for like $600. I don't know what condition they're in again. Or just shell out, you know, put your hand in your pocket and buy a new Husky 572. And so they've been out for a few years now, about 3 years I think, and I've not heard anyone saying, oh, they're a piece of crap or they don't go well or anything. I've heard no bad reports about the 572. I think that Husky really, because it's been a long time since they upgraded from the 372 to the 572. Like the 372 has been around for a long time, so Husqvarna have had a long time to do development and research and really get the 572 to where it should be. So but look, Baumr AG has done the business. I can't complain. I have no complaints about it really. No serious complaints, you know, just a few gripes here and there, minor things. But then people have minor gripes and that about, you know, brand new OEM saws, Huskies and Stills and whatnot. I like Husqvarna, I do, I have to say it. I've got 3 Still clones, copies, but and I don't know if I'll buy a brand new Still because they are expensive, like I said, about 30% more than a Husqvarna. And people say, oh, Husqvarna are cheap and they're not as good as a Still. Yeah, maybe. There's a hell of a lot of professional loggers and, you know, arborists and that who use Husqvarnas. So that's got to say, and they've been around for, you know, quite a while, not as long as Still, but yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to make this video and say the Baumr AG, I can't fault it, really. You know, it goes well. I've never had a problem with the carby or, you know, anything. So next time you see a chainsaw review, it will be my Husky 572, my brand new Husky 572 XP. Yeah, that is going to be sweet. Apparently they got like 10% more power than the 372, or 10% more efficiency, so that's going to be interesting to see. And it comes with I think a 20-inch bar or something, but I'm going to put, you know, maybe a 36-inch bar on it if it's really got, you know, the grunt that it's supposed to. And I don't know if I'll do a muffler. I'll see how it goes. You know, I'll see how it goes. Like if it performs really well, I'll just leave it stock as a rock. Maybe put a full wrap handle on it, but they're sort of hard to get right now, or they're not cheap. No one's making a copy of it. So until then, see you later.